What's good, creatives? Today we're going to be talking about why I personally prefer the Canon 1DX Mark II over all these cameras. Canon 1DX Mark II. Let's jump right into the first one. The size of this beast. It's big. I know I have complained in the past about how big it is, but you learn to love how big a camera is when it can iron out shakes in your footage. So with that being said, a bigger, heavier camera may be kind of a hassle sometimes with carrying it, but when it comes down to actually filming and shooting things, it's gonna give you a much more stabilized shot. And I think we all wanna have the best stabilized shots possible. So the 1DX Mark II soars in that area because it's obviously a bigger, beastier camera. Now the second reason that I love the Canon 1DX Mark II is the dynamic range. Like, you can take photos, you can have them dark, and you can bring back your shadows, and you won't lose that much quality. You won't get too much grain. You can really push the blacks in the footage on the 1DX Mark II. So with being able to shoot all eye is super good. So for instance, all eye format is going to give you a much higher quality of video, and it's also going to retain more data in the footage as opposed to IPB, which is used in the Canon 6D Mark II. This will balance out a alright image quality, but it'll reduce the file size, so it's smaller files but lower quality. So like on the 6D Mark II, you don't have the option to shoot all eye to get that higher quality of footage or more data in your footage, etc. But with the 1DX Mark II, you can shoot all eye, and it just gives a great image quality. It looks so freaking good. The footage, the quality. Speaking of, let's get into 3. The 1080p at 120 frames per second is so buttery smooth on this camera. I know it has the best smooth 120 frames per second out of any of these other cameras in its bracket. It's so crisp, especially using the right lens. Say for instance like a Sigma Art 35mm or the Canon 100mm macro, you can get beautiful footage with 120 frames per second at 1080. It almost looks 4K. It does like look 4K. It's not 4K, but it looks like moving on into number 4, it has 4K 60s. For one, like, none of these DSLRs really have 4K 60 besides like the GH5. 4K 60s? What? Also has 4K 24 frames per second. Like, all of this in one DSLR? Crazy. I mean, you can't ask for better features. This camera just has it all. It may be a little pricey, but like for the price that you're getting everything almost in one. Moving on to the 5th reason why I prefer the Canon 1DX Mark II is the autofocus. It is so accurate. It is so perfect. Now, when I'm typically vlogging or something, I'll keep the autofocus box in the middle of the frame, and I'll just make sure that I point it at whatever I want it to stay focused on, and it usually is instant. And if I move it over top of something, it'll go right to that. Nowadays, like, autofocus is becoming a very important thing. It didn't used to be, especially like with shooting music videos or higher end production. I don't think people really rely on like autofocus, but when it comes down to like photos, vlogging, you know, quick little shoots, like for running gun stuff, I guess autofocus is super important nowadays. And by far, the 1DX Mark II has the fastest autofocus that I've personally ever encountered. So last but not least, the final reason that I love this camera is the machine gun photos. You will never miss a shot. So if you're like a photographer that does like concerts or does weddings or places where you got to actually capture the moment, you will never miss that moment with the machine gun shots. It takes photos so fast. Like, I need to let you hear it. That's crazy. So for taking photos, having that fast of a shutter is just out of mind-blowing. Like, whoa. So those are 6 reasons why I prefer the Canon 1DX Mark II, and what I use my 1DX Mark II for is vlogging. I vlog with it, I take it around with me, I take it on trips, I shoot videos in my office right here, I take photos of my son when I'm out, anywhere I go, I take photos on set, behind the scenes. And another great thing, man, 7. Another reason that this camera is beast and I prefer it is because I can hand it to anybody and they can usually capture what I need them to, even if they're not familiar with a camera. It takes photos so fast, they're gonna get one photo from me, I know it. And then when you set it on 120 frames per second and give it to them, like if they have some shakes in their hand, it's so heavy, and plus 120 frames per second, they're gonna get minimal shake in it, if any. So that's 7, another reason why I prefer it. I can really hand it to anybody that's not even familiar with a camera, and they could probably capture a shot some way or somehow for me. You know, I can't say the same for other cameras because a lot of other cameras are super lightweight or they don't shoot fast enough, whatever the case may be. So my conclusion, autofocus is amazing, quality, dynamic range, 4K 60s, 4K 24, 120 frames per second is butter and crispy as if it was 4K. Everything. I love this camera, man. I prefer this camera the most over anything for what I use it for. And I also recommend it for people that are doing similar things, man. I recommend this camera. It is a bit pricey, but why not just save up your money, drop it, and never have to think about it again. Once you drop that price, you don't have to drop it again. Wait, did I mention mention that the colors on Canon are just fire too, like way better than your other brands. Like it's just like straight out of camera, you could really upload it without even doing color grading. All right, I might find more reasons if I keep talking, man. I prefer the Canon 1DX Mark II. I think it's an amazing beast. I think it's worth looking into if you've been thinking about it, and even go rent it out, man. I'll leave a link down below where you can go to aperturerent.com and you can rent the camera out and actually use my code and get 10% off. Yeah, rent it out, man. If you want to test it and try it and give it a test run, if it's something that you're interested in, definitely rent it out, man. So that's gonna do it for this video, man. I hope that you liked this. I hope this was informative and it helped you, and it kind of helped you make a decision. I don't know, maybe you're just clicking on this because it's my most recent video. Hopefully you'll drop it a like if you did enjoy this. Drop me a comment, whatever the case may be. Hit subscribe if you're new here. Consider it, man. Consider subscribing. 1DX Mark II. Love this camera. I'm out. I'll see you guys next time. Next video, next whatever vlog. I don't know. See you soon. Peace.